Hello, everyone. It is that time again where we are back talking severe weather. Um, if any of you guys are new to all of this, my name is Christopher King. I run a little Facebook page called Christopher King Weather. Been doing this for quite a long time, and actually been doing this particular segment for quite a long time. Any day, um, or any time rather, we are under a slight risk of severe weather, a level 2 out of 5. I typically will go on the night before to kind of talk about the latest updates. And now that the 0Z model data is coming in, to be real honest with you, um, I've I've been busy today, and so I'm just having dinner tonight, sponsored by Totino's. That would be great if I was sponsored by Totino's. And so I've looked a little bit at the models, but you and I are going to take a little dive into the models together. The 0Zs are out, so every 6 hours for the best data. The HRRR comes out every hour, but you don't get 48 hours in advance. So we're going to sit through all this together. We're going to just be very casual tonight, just chill. It's more of a long form format. We're not going to be here for 5 minutes on a quick update. I'm going to really kind of dive deeper and look into it. And long story short, we'll have a better idea when we go to bed. And you know what? We'll wake up tomorrow and it probably all be different. That's the whole funny thing about this. So, the first thing we're going to look at is our risks. Then we're going to start looking at what's really causing all of this. Why are we under this threat? And what's timing going to look like? Because that's what everybody wants to know. And maybe we'll get through a live broadcast without somebody putting in the chat, "Hey, I can't hear you." I'm going to try to do better at that. If you've watched, you've kind of realized sometimes I accidentally leave my uh, mic muted. And it's funny enough, I'll hold it up here. You can see it. There's a green light that tells me. I mean, I'm literally looking at it. I guess I just get too into everything that I just like totally forget. So somebody will put it in the chat, which I'm very thankful for. So let's get right into it. Um, so let's see, what button do I want to hit? That. Okay. Here we go. So we are looking at the Storm Prediction Center. Now, I want to keep you and just keep this in mind. This is actually probably old now at this point. This was updated about, I forget when it was updated, 1728 local time. So go backwards 5 hours, and that's when it was updated. So 1700 minus 5, which would be what, 1228, right? So about 1228 our time, about almost 1230. And so lots happened then. Models have updated, but right now we are currently in a huge swath of the eastern US is under a slight risk for severe weather. That's a level 2 out of 5. If you do not know the levels of risk, they are down at the bottom here, but they start with thunderstorm, which is that really light green. That's not even a categorical risk. They just say, hey, there's going to be some garden variety thunderstorms, kind of like what we had last night, right? The severe stuff was to the south. That's why you never heard me talk about anything that didn't involve us. You've got the darker green here, which would be a marginal level 1. That's what we were under this past Saturday. A slight risk would be a level 2, and then enhance, moderate, high, just to kind of show you this is what's going on right now. There is actually a moderate risk, a level 4, for some pretty intense tornadoes. If you're a weather geek like me, I've been watching Ron Hall a little bit before I came on just to see what was going on. They've had some really destructive tornadoes on the ground up there in parts of northern Illinois, stretching over into Indiana. So I'm just looking, just a couple questions here. Somebody just asked, is this like an event before where the supercells that may occur in front of the line? Well, we're going to look at that. Really, our setup isn't totally conducive to that. It's going to be more the linear fashion. But we'll take a look at the model together and see if there's any pop-up that happened out in front of it. So the cold front's going to be what's driving all of this. So we're under slight risk. I'll show you the tornado risk. So you're starting to see, and let's see if I can do this. Oh, yes, it worked. So in this area right here, in this area over here, we are looking at that new categorical significant risk that if you did not watch the last Chris King, the weather guy, because I know all 5 of you did, I know it's a joke, but you definitely need to just check it out because it goes into talking about, you're going to see a lot more overlays of of severity of severe weather. And so, different than what it used to be. And this all was all updated last week. And so we're just under a 2%. And I know what you're going, Christopher, it's 2%. Whoop de freaking do. 2% still an elevated risk. I tell people, right up here, right where my cursor's at. Actually, I'll do this. I'll draw it right up here in Michigan. Last week, under a slight risk, we had an EF3 tornado touchdown and with fatalities. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying that sometimes marginal means that we can just kind of let our guard down, and sometimes it will surprise us. I believe the last tornado warning that we actually had for our area was under a marginal risk day. I think it was on a Sunday last May or June. I just remember I was setting up the weather center here after everything was purchased, and I was like, "Oh, we're going to be fine." And I start setting it up, and then all of a sudden, a tornado warning goes off, and I'm trying to connect everything as fast as I could to kind of send it on its maiden voyage. But what you're looking at is this little hatched area, little dots, if you will. That's the way they're going to look on pivotal weather. This means that the tornadoes in this area would be as high as an EF2. Okay, so an EF2 would definitely do some damage, and so those are the areas where they're pinpointing where the most significant tornadoes would develop. And then obviously in the brown section, it jumps from a 2% to a 5%. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's what you're more than doubled, right? What, 2.5 times the amount of percentage right there? So, anyways, that's our tornado threat. So it's small. Okay. Well, let's look at hail real quick. Our hail threat is pretty small. 5%. The monster hail we've been seeing, they've had like baseball and like softball size hail back into these areas. We're not really going to see that to tomorrow. That's not going to be our setup. Wind is going to be our main setup. And so when you see the 15% wind, that kind of correlates. And if you look right here, more specifically, just look at the shape. It kind of correlates to the slight risk. I do know that the Storm Projection Center has toyed with the idea of maybe putting an enhanced risk for areas. I don't think that's going to be us necessarily, but it's going to really going to depend on whether or not storms develop in the morning that may calm the atmosphere down a little bit as to whether or not they may issue that. So, anyways, to go back over it real quick, we're under a slight risk. Okay. Our tornado percent is small. It's at 2%. It's one of those deals where you'll hear me say, but a brief tornado cannot be ruled out. Okay. Hail is at 5%. And then our wind is at 15%. So obviously the driving force here is going to be the wind. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at what in the world's causing all this. And so if you watch my video I did on Sunday where I try to do a little bit, kind of a mini version of the downburst, I was talking about the 500 millibar map. And so what we're really looking at, and just kind of keep your eyes on it, right here. There's a closed low right there in the middle of Texas right now, and that's what's causing a lot of havoc down there in parts of Texas. And then you've got another kind of low little trough right here that's creating the issue here. That's why if you look at literally, oh, that's got my graphics on it. Hang on. I just hit something. Hang on. I do this every time. I hit the wrong button. There we go. I'm back if I was off air for a second. You can see just how big this is. I mean, I've got family that lives in Wisconsin, and I also have family that lives in Weatherford, Texas, and both of them are getting hammered with some severe weather. So you can see all the reports of severe events right there. So it's a pretty massive system. And what's driving that is this. You've got a trough sitting right here that's creating havoc downstream. You've got another trough right here that's a little bit more potent, and that's where you're seeing the bigger tornado risk that's happened up here. So what I want you to do is I just want you to watch it, okay? And this is kind of where it was at currently. And it's just moving forward, moving forward, moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. And so what you're seeing is you're seeing really the energy is going to be up north right there. But you have a little bit here as well. And we're going to be on that downwind side of all of this. And we're just going to keep it moving and moving. And then all of a sudden that low occludes and it is gone to the south. And you really see a tightening right here of that gradient going up to the north and east. So what does that mean for us? So what we want to do is I want to look at the radar. What is the radar going to look like because I think it's very important to look more at a national view before we really dive deep into what's happening in Tullahoma or whatever. Okay. So give me just a second to pull up composite reflectivity. And so this is going to kind of give us an idea of really what the storm mode is going to look like. And so I will probably zoom in just a little bit more to the Ohio Valley, give you a better idea of what's going on here. Okay. And so you're going to start to see, I mean, there's that low, here's the trough and all of the storms. You're seeing over here in parts of Ohio and my old stomping grounds. That's where the King family's from. This specific area of Ohio and West Virginia. You're seeing more discrete sales. And then look what happens for us. You see this line coming, line coming, line coming. Okay, maybe a couple of storms jump out ahead of it, but it's not as robust as what you saw to the north. Okay, and then oh, that's a pretty weak line of convection there, and then it just kind of trains for a little bit and moves through. So that's kind of what it's going to look like, maybe. Okay, so again, looks more like a linear fashion, right? Linear. Some storms jump out ahead of that. We're going to zoom in just a second, so don't worry. So, Malia, hopefully that answers your question. Are you going to see supercells jumping out in front of this? Models really, right now, the 0Z saying, not really, there could be. And what's going to happen is if there's just enough lift up out in front of this, and it's going to be very broken. Do you notice how fragmented those storms are? It's not like, oh, they kind of swell up and die off, swell up and die off. It looks like maybe Huntsville South may have a little bit more to deal with that type of storm. Okay. Uh, so, anyways, to make a long story short, that's kind of the convective mode. So let's zoom in because everybody wants to know what time, right? Because I mean, that's what question do I get asked most? Are we gonna get hit with a tornado, or or is it gonna come down my street and what time, right? So we're gonna zoom way in here and let me back off of that. And um, this is just Tennessee view, okay? So I want to kind of show you some things. If you've never seen these models, I just want to get you to pay attention right here up at the top. That's where the timestamp is. Okay. So everything's now local time. You don't have to worry about taking Zulu time, subtracting 5 hours out of it, and then getting your time. Everything is a-okay. It's easy to read up here. So this is what the radar may look like. Just keep in mind, I've said this time and time again. This is not gospel, kiddos. It's not gonna look just like this, okay? And so let's go ahead and fast forward this. And so there's what noon's gonna look like. 1 o'clock, it's kind of, right there at Nashville. Okay. 2 o'clock, that line's going to be more Murfreesboro. And I'm going to stop and pause for my Tullahoma people. You definitely just need to keep your eyes and ears. If you have folks that are going to Murfreesboro, or you have a person playing in Murfreesboro tomorrow where our Tullahoma Wildcats are going against the Alcoa Tornadoes, how, how, what's the word? I just lost it, but like how fitting that they're playing the Alcoa Tornadoes. Okay, just there you go. So that's going to be 2 o'clock. The line it's there. It's more like multi-cluster of sales here. It's not quite a full squall line yet. And 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock is when that booger is going to hit that main line. So let's back it up. So if you want to kind of look and say, hey, when do we really need to be start paying attention? I'd say around 2 o'clock. Early afternoon, just kind of keep an eye on your weather app. Of course, I'll be at school. Okay. So you guys, if you don't know, my day job is an educator. Okay. And so I can't always just update in the middle of school because I'm trying to teach kids. Okay. Trying to teach them some good math. And so kind of hard to do that and be weather guy sometimes, but I juggle it. So I'd say about 2 o'clock. Let's start, kind of keeping our eyes and ears open. That looks like that line's going to come through about 4 o'clock right now, give or take. Okay. And then once that line comes through, it looks like it wants to stay here for a minute. That line is not necessarily a fast moving front. At least that's the impression I'm getting by the model here. So we may be sticking around here for a little while. So there's, that line has not moved much. So we could even have a small, maybe flood threat, especially in low lying areas if we get a really powerful cell that's dumping some rain. So that's something we also probably need to be just keep in mind of. And then once that initial line, it's like anything that happens with these linear storms. Like right here, is the worst of it, okay? Once you get that main line behind you, it's just what they call stratiform rain clouds. That's all this is. It's stratiform, which means just good old, you may get a thunder bumper in there a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be nothing but rain. The severe threat has passed you, okay? And it's going to rain for probably a little while longer. So here's 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So it could rain on into the early morning hours before it finally moves out about 6 o'clock in the morning and moves over to East Tennessee. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to back this back up. And what I want to do is I want to look at what's going on in the atmosphere. We haven't talked about that, right? Things that make storms severe, talking about CAPE, talking which is instability, talking about wind shear. Those are the things that you need to be able to have storms initiate and get robust, create thunderstorms, and do the types of severe weather things that severe weather things do. Okay. So I'm just going to click a sounding, which I'm going to click this in Tullahoma, and that'll be general of anybody in Moore County and Franklin County. So I'm going to click it, and I'm going to go to my. Okay. My software's muting it. Hey, guess what? Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? You didn't get a live stream. Well, we didn't get through a live stream without telling me that it was muted. See, I joked around with it. What's happening is the software, for some reason, is randomly turning off my microphone, and I didn't realize it because it's green on the light. So, what I was saying is that we'll talk a little bit about what this is in just a minute with that marginal tornado threat. So I'll rewind. So what I'm looking at from a sounding, and this is kind of letting me know what's happening in the atmosphere. Okay, the main thing is what are the conditions going to be that lets us know what type of mode that we're going to have. Okay, and so first of all, I'm going to look at a couple things. The first thing I'm going to look at right here is surface to 6 kilometers. So if you want me to teach you, I'm going to teach you. Okay, because that's what I do for a living. So right here, when it says 58 knots, that's pretty strong shear. That allows storms to stay active for a long time. So when we would look at the radar, what's happening up north of us, and there's tornadoes that have been on the ground for like 30 to 40 minutes. You have to have that kind of shear to be able to keep storms going. It has to do with the updraft and the downdraft not colliding into one another and raining itself out. And so when you get speeds like that, storms tend to stay active longer. Okay. The Cape. A lot of people like to do surface Cape. Nope, that's not what Penn State teaches me. They say the mid level Cape. So it's 888. That's moderate Cape. Cape simply means right here. This is this part, okay? That's the basically what it is. It's the area between the red line and that dash line. The red line is what the environmental temperature is, of what we think it's going to be. Let's keep in mind this is all model data, and then that dash line is what an air parcel should do a normal. And so you compare the norm to the reality, and the difference is how unstable the atmosphere is. I will say that the Cape though is really long and skinny. So long and skinny Cape doesn't necessarily favor really fast updrafts. So when I look at 888 from my Cape, I'm not exactly super impressed just because of the profile of the Cape. If this line was way out here, that would be deadly, I'll be honest with you. But that's not the kind of Cape we have here. I'm also looking at from about 6 kilometers here. I'm looking and say, hey, is the wind turning with height? It's not turning too terribly much. Okay. I mean, if you look at winds are coming out of what the southwest, maybe the south southwest, and they're coming from the southwest. So there's not a lot of turn in the atmosphere. That's what would be conducive to tornadic development. Okay, so that's why our while it says marginal, it may be enough to spin up a tornado, but not anything to be a very destructive big wedge EF5 kind of tornado, which we very rarely ever have those. In fact, we had one last year for the first time in 12 years. Okay, I'm looking at the Cape as well. The Cape, it's not going to take much. That's going to be the thing that if you've heard people talk about, there's a cap, there's a cap, there's a cap. Um, there's not a lot of um, there's not a lot of resistance for the air to rise in the atmosphere. And so when you see this called level of free convection, I know I'm giving you a mouthful of stuff to talk about, but when we're talking about this LFC, all we got to do is rise that air to right there, enough lift, and then it's going to lift all by itself. And that's what creates updrafts. Okay. It's buoyancy. It's all it is. It's buoyancy stuff. You guys remember when you put a beach ball and you try to push it down to the very bottom of the pool, or you take one of those wakeboards and try to push it down to the very bottom of the pool, what happens? Pshoo, it shoots up naturally. That's exactly what air does in this environment once it hits the LFC. Okay, that's what it does. And so, like I said, it's more. Even though we've got some Cape, we've got a little bit of turn, but not anything. The photograph over here is not anything that's big scary to me. The marginal tornado would mean we probably can have some winds out of this, okay, but not enough that would indicate like damaging tornadoes. It's exactly what I've been telling you. This setup sounds very. It's identical to what I was explaining. It's everything's matching, if you will. All right, so let's turn this off. And what I want to do real quick, I want to close this out, and I just want to go kind of frame at a time. This is what we do on the downburst, guys. So as that storm is, these storms are approaching much anything, and so it's almost like, oh well, it's marginally severe. And I'll zoom in here. Sorry. So we have some pretty robust shear for sure. Our capes kind of dropped a little bit. Our wind profile really hadn't changed much, and so they're saying, well, maybe because of the cape has dropped off a little bit by 100. I guess why they went to marginally severe instead of a marginal tornado risk. I guess that would be my explanation as to why. And then we'll go one more. Now, this is what I do, man. This is what I look at. This You want to get good at this stuff, you got to look at the atmosphere, see what's going on. And it's again giving us the same thing. By this time, there's a lot of rain happening because we've got dew points and temperatures that are pretty close together. It's pretty close to raining at that point. Our shear is still at 68. You're noticing now the winds have now shifted out of the west, almost due west at the surface. And our cape has almost dropped to nothing. And that's probably because the rain is already there, so it's kind of saturated the atmosphere. So again, it looks like everything that I've pretty much have been telling you, that seems to be the focus here. And these storms that keep firing off that way, that seems to be what I would think would happen. I would just see more of a, definitely maybe a severe thunderstorm warning kind of afternoon. There could be a tornado warning here or there. It's not going to be widespread. Not like what has gone on to the north tonight. And so that seems to be it from the long form. So you guys have any questions for me after I got my mic fixed? I'll be glad to answer anything that you guys have going on, or anything else that you would want me to cover while I sit here and eat a little bit. I'm gonna pull a Ryan Hall and eat in front of people. He does like bananas and stuff, but it's Totino's Pizza, man. Mm. I would definitely say Totino's Pizza is good, by the way. Um, I wouldn't. This is not a hellfire and brimstone kind of evening. I don't think. or tomorrow afternoon. But it's just something we just got to definitely stay weather aware of. I think the thing that, to me, I don't think a lot of people stress enough. A lot of people get really antsy about tornadoes, but think about this for just a minute, okay? Think about a map. And I said, okay, where's the tornado damage going to be? You would just have to take a little pinpoint, boop, and pin it on the map, right? But if you really think about it, what causes the more damage in storms? It's wind. It's not tornadoes. It's damaging wind. When we had our last wind event that was we even had a wind event very recently where a lot of trees were knocked down in parts of Tullahoma, and it wasn't even a severe thunderstorm warning. We just had a ton of rain, and the winds were strong, and it knocked over some trees. Back in June of this past year, where we had some trees down over there on is it East Carroll Street, going up to the viaduct, where we had some trees and damage over there. We had more damage in Tullahoma because of a severe thunderstorm warning than we did a tornado warning. So I want to emphasize that it's not that we need to be more scared, but you just need to be prepared. We have to realize that on average, severe thunderstorms, damaging wind creates more widespread damage. It's more of a swath than this tornado that may, in a worst case scenario, sure, a couple of miles wide destruction, but relatively speaking, it's very pinpointed. So, what about Dixon? Oh Lord. Dixon would be, I don't cover Dixon, but I could just take a look real quick, because Dixon's gonna be right in this particular area. They're gonna get their storms ahead of us. Because Dixon would be about boop. Let me zoom out of my thing here for just a minute and I'll show you what I'm looking at. Go back over here. Dixon is like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so that's before it hits the I-65 corridor. If you're traveling up to Dixon tomorrow, I would just keep in mind around lunchtime. That's when that line of storms could be moving in. And if I take a second and pull it back out and see what's going on here in Dixon, view sounding, they've got more of a, that says more of a tornado threat. Um, just because the Cape's a little fatter here. It's kind of hard to explain. You do have a temperature inversion right here, but it would lift freely, wouldn't have an issue. The Cape looks a lot different there, and it's at 852. You got a little bit more, not very much more turn in the atmosphere, but they're looking at that photograph to say maybe a tornado. It's interesting because these are very similar to what I was just showing in parts of southern Middle Tennessee. So if I was saying Dixon, I'd just be very careful there about lunchtime. That's when that would roll in. Anybody else have any questions? Definitely, while I'm sitting here just looking back and forth at the chat over here off screen, thank you guys. If you are any one of you guys that have liked or shared something, thank you. I really, really, really do appreciate that. Just because I don't post I try, well, I did there for a while, and I was like, the whole point people have come to know me is when the weather gets kind of iffy and I kind of come out like Batman. And so I don't always post every day because I don't need to. And so what ends up happening is if I post something, a lot of people miss it. That's just how Facebook works. If you're not posting every day and people aren't liking your stuff gets shoved down there below where like all the cat videos are or all the political mess. And so it's hard for people to know. So that's why it's important. Hey, if you want to support me, the easiest way you can do that is like and share my stuff and put it out there for people to see and keep them informed. Okay. Sometimes you guys are the meteorologist at your house. Do you understand? You know what I'm saying? Like you are the person that your family goes to for weather. Of course, that's been me my whole life. But you are that person, and one way that you can help with that is to definitely share information out and pay attention to people that are not sitting here being fear mongers. Okay, if I have to, if I was at the Severe Weather Awareness Day a couple of weeks ago, and like the big talking points between the National Weather Service and all the broadcast meteorologists. So Lisa Spencer was there, Katie Morgan from Channel 17, Leland Statham, good old Leland was there, and oh, what is his name? Marcus. He's on Channel 2. I forgot his name now. I mean, they had to have a discussion about all of these people that are online that are weather people, or they claim to be, and then they post a forecast of 38 hours out saying we're all going to get a 25 bazillion feet of snow, and people believe them. And that's the crazy thing. So just make sure, guys, please, please, make sure that you're following people that kind of know what they're talking about. Like, if you didn't know, I'm in the process right now, of going back to school, and I will be getting my certificate of undergraduate certificate of weather forecasting from Pennsylvania State University, Penn State Nittany Lions. I will have that by the end of this calendar year, and so I'm actually going back and I'm studying this stuff, and so I kind of, not to say I know what I'm talking about, but I kind of studied it and kind of know what I'm supposed to be looking for. So just be careful who you're watching and everything. I know Ryan Hall and those guys, watch them. They do coverage that's insane. I would, it's revolutionizing everything. But just keep in mind, there's some people out there, even this week, like I've seen people that I'll go back to this. They were actually taking the categorical right here that was yellow, and they would do this with it. They took the yellow and they turned it like red. So this whole area was red. And guys, no matter what, I think y'all know, when you see red, it incites a little. It doesn't incite. Oh, it's a slight risk. Red implies we're all going to die. Okay, and so people have to be very careful and just responsible about how they use that stuff. And not everybody does. They're all out there to get money, man. It's a business. So, anyways, sorry for my little rant, but it's something that has changed over the past even 2 years. So anyways, here's what you'll get from me. Tomorrow morning I will have a new post up before the kids get up, before I get ready to go to work. Kind of outlining the day. If there's anything that I need to maybe post during the day, I'll try to do that if I can, but I'll come back in here that afternoon. Anytime there is a severe thunderstorm warning and or a tornado warning, I do live coverage here and on YouTube as well. So if you'd rather like have a TV, if you're watching on Facebook and you say, "Man, I'd rather like I'm probably watching it on my phone right now or my tablet. I'm not, maybe I would rather have it on my TV." You definitely, if you've got the YouTube app, you can just go to at Christopher King WX and find me there. So, yeah, yeah, a lot of folks will be at the Murphy Center. Hopefully, the weather will be good. I'm hoping to. It looks like maybe the travel up there may be a little rough, and that's my biggest concern because we've got a lot of our folks there. So at tip, I mean, if we're doing at tip off, what is that? Is it 5:30? So let's say right there, the main line of storms would have moved out of the area a day ago. It would have been right at tip off. So that's why it's important to come back and double check on things. So I definitely get that there's going to be a lot of folks going up there, and then next week for the boys as well. Yep, it is straight for margarine. Yeah, I totally 100% agree. Malia said that I see it all the time. It's straight up fear mongering. That's right. It is. It is because we have become a society that loves to make money off fear. And lovely, right? I was at 5:45. Thank you, Mick. 5:45 is the tip. So let's get it more to 6 o'clock then. Here, I'll go back here. So this will be 6 o'clock. But even at that tip at six, or with the model, because I can't do 5:45. The bulk of that has already passed. So the thing is, you may be, just depends on when you're leaving, man. You may run into this stuff. So just be mindful of that. Of course, your phones are going to go off in the worst case scenario. No weather radios really don't do really good in the car unless you have them, like one of the ones that I have that are like mobile. So, all right. Well, I think at this point, if you guys don't have any other questions, unless you just want to hang out with me for a minute, I'm pretty much going to call it a night. Usually, we go about 30 to 40 minutes, and really go more of a long form. And so, hopefully, I've kind of pulled the curtain back, Wizard of Oz style here, and let you see everything that I get to see, and just kind of making a judgment based off what I see. So again, I think it's going to be more of a wind event. I think we do have a little bit more heightened event than we do with than last Saturday. I think this setup's a little bit better. we've got a little bit more shear. We've got a lot more wind energy, and so than we did on Saturday. That this really kind of fizzled out there. I was watching, I was ready, but never needed to pull the trigger because everything we had were special weather statements. So. All right, guys. Well, I am going to go ahead and get off of here. I appreciate you guys your time. There's a lot of other things you could do at 9:40 at night on a what is it today? What Tuesday? I forgot what day it was. That's bad. There's a lot of other things you could do. So thank you for your support, guys, as always. And just keep it right here to the channel. Like, share, get this information out. It's not about numbers, it's about informing people so they can know what's going on. Because while I watch the weather all the time, I've realized that not everybody does. And some people get caught off guard even in the worst of times. So, guys, thank you very much. You guys have a great evening, and I will see you soon.